Have you ever considered how your assumptions can shape your interactions and even your life? Assumptions, those little suppositions we make about others based on past experiences or our own personal biases, can lead us down a path of misunderstanding and miscommunication. They can cloud our judgment, skew our perception, and even damage our relationships. Picture this. Not too long ago, I was invited to speak at a local school. Thrilled and slightly nervous, I entered the auditorium filled with familiar faces, and some I didn't recognize. As I moved from one guest to another, exchanging pleasantries and handshakes, I came across an unfamiliar face. With a smile, I extended my hand to him, ready for a warm greeting. But as I extended my hand to one of the guests, the unexpected happened. The man ignored my outstretched hand, leaving me feeling embarrassed and angry. The auditorium, buzzing with chatter and laughter, suddenly felt silent. My heart pounded in my chest, my mind raced with questions. What had I done to deserve such treatment? I asked myself. Why would he ignore my gesture of goodwill? The answers that came were not kind. I assumed he was rude, arrogant, or simply didn't like me. The feeling of embarrassment was overwhelming, like a heavy cloak draped over my shoulders, pulling me down. I felt my cheeks burn, my hands tremble, my throat tighten. The anger, on the other hand, was like a fire, a fierce blaze that threatened to consume me. I was angry at him for making me feel this way, for disregarding my attempt at social niceties. But then, a revelation. The man was blind. The realization was like a punch in the gut. It hit me hard, leaving me breathless. His eyes, though open, saw nothing. His world was a tapestry of sounds, smells, and touch, with no visuals to guide him. Suddenly, my assumptions seemed ridiculous, petty, and incredibly misguided. I had jumped to conclusions, painted a picture of this man based on my own perceptions, without taking a moment to consider his reality. My anger and embarrassment, once a raging storm, now felt like a drizzle on a sunny day. I had assumed, and in doing so, I had done a great disservice to both him and myself. I had allowed my emotions to be influenced by my own misconceptions, by my own limited understanding of the world. It was a harsh lesson, one that I would not forget in a hurry. The danger of misinterpretation, of rushing to judgment without all the facts, was clear. It was a reminder of the importance of empathy, of understanding, of seeing things from another person's perspective. What I had seen as rudeness was, in fact, an inability to see. My assumptions had led me astray. This experience made me realize the dangers of assumptions. Assumptions, as innocent as they may seem, can lead to misunderstandings, miscommunications, and ultimately cause harm to our relationships and interactions. Let's look at some everyday examples. Imagine you send a text to a friend and they don't reply immediately. It's easy to assume they're ignoring you, isn't it? But what if they're simply busy, or their phone ran out of battery? By jumping to conclusions, we allow a small incident to create unnecessary tension. Or consider a colleague who's been less friendly lately. You might assume they're upset with you, but perhaps they're just going through a personal struggle. Instead of extending understanding or empathy, we let our assumptions dictate our responses. In our busy lives, it's easy to forget that everyone is fighting their own battles. We're so focused on our own world that we often neglect to consider the circumstances of others. This is where empathy comes in. Empathy is the ability to understand and share the feelings of others. It's about putting ourselves in their shoes and viewing the world from their perspective. Empathy is crucial in our interactions. It helps us to avoid assumptions and to respond appropriately to the actions of others. It allows us to extend kindness and understanding, even when we might not fully comprehend what someone else is going through. In the story I shared earlier, my assumption led to embarrassment and regret. But it also taught me a valuable lesson. It underscored the importance of not jumping to conclusions, of not letting assumptions cloud my judgment. So let's make a conscious effort to practice empathy. The next time you're tempted to make an assumption, take a moment to consider the other person's perspective. Ask questions, extend understanding, and remember that everyone is dealing with their own unique set of circumstances. Remember, things aren't always as they seem. Let's make an effort to understand before we assume.